Amiri Baraka was born Everett Leroy Jones on October 7, 1934 in Newark, New Jersey. He adopted Amiri Baraka as his Muslim name in 1967. He attended Rutgers University and Howard University and served in the U.S. Air Force, which had made him serious about reading and writing poetry. Baraka was first associated with the writers of the Beat Generation. Some of these writers include Allen Ginsberg, Robert Creeley, and Jack Kerouac. He later became a leader of the Black Arts Movement, which brought a new and militantly political focus to African American culture. Later on in his career, he got involved in Third World liberation movements and identified himself as a Marxist. More recently, Baraka has been accused of anti-Semitism for his poem Somebody Blew Up America, written in response to the September 11 attacks. Overall, Baraka has changed his views a lot throughout his writing career. Baraka's poetry describes in stunning detail the African American experience and is considered foundational work in the creation of a modern Black aesthetic. However, Baraka's charged stance, at times anti-white and anti-Semitic, has alienated many readers. Some criticisms also include the persistent theme of good and bad throughout his work, the extensive use of political messages found in his later writings, and the fact that he sporadically rewrites his work. Therefore, some believe that several of his works would benefit from editing. However, Baraka believes that rewriting something is trying to make a bad thing work, so he either keeps an idea or throws it away. The December 16, 1979 New York Times Book Review, authored by Darrell Pickney, criticizes that in his early poetry there was an engaging voice, one outside convention, and an awareness of forms. These things have been lost in the haste and rigidity of Baraka's political journey. On the contrary, the American award-winning author, Philip Hedridge, states that by no means has his poetry suffered over the years. Rather, he has matured, finely tuning his lines and putting his listeners more in touch with poetic rhythms in a uniquely African American tradition. Furthermore, literary critic Arnold Rampersad raves Baraka stands with Wheatley, Douglas, Dunbar, Hughes, Hurston, Wright, and Ellison as one of the 8 figures, in my opinion, who have significantly affected the course of African American literary culture. His change of heart and head is testimony to his honesty, energy, and relentless search for meaning. Overall, Amiri Baraka has been one of the most influential American poets since the 1960s. What makes Amiri Baraka unique is that he was part of several different movements, as stated before, so his involvement in all these different groups is reflected in his poetry as he has progressed throughout his literary career. Baraka has an attractive and vividly colloquial poetic style, which makes it relatively easy to understand. However, because Baraka's voice is so raw, his poetry does not shy away from profanity. One theme that recurs throughout most of Baraka's works that I've read is his criticism of the hypocrisy, conformity, and superficial values of the middle-class lifestyles. I would give Amiri Baraka an award for his extensive use of profanity throughout all his poetry. None of his poetry has one poem that has no bad words. All his poetry has bad words pretty much, almost. All the ones that I've read have a lot of bad words. Here are some excerpts from some of his poetry to show my point. I've decided I'm not going to say them, so just read them to yourself, since saying them out loud in front of the whole class is awkward. These are just some of the many examples. At any rate, let's move along. I am now going to read my favorite poem by Amiri Baraka. The title is Political Poem. Luxury, then, is a way of being ignorant, comfortably, an approach to the open market of least information, where theories can thrive under heavy tarpaulins without being cracked by ideas. I have not seen the earth for years, and now think possibly dirt is negative, positive, but clearly social. I cannot plant a seed, cannot recognize the root with clearer dent than indifference, though I eat and shit as a natural man, getting up from the desk to secure a turkey sandwich and answer the phone. The poem undone, undone by my station, and the bad words of Newark. Raised up to the breach we seek to fill for this crumbling century, the darkness of love, in whose sweating memory all error is forced. Undone by the logic of any specific death, old gentlemen who still follow fires, though are quieter and less punctual. It is a polite truth we are left with. Who are you? What are you saying? Something to be dealt with as easily. The noxious game of reason saying, no, no, you cannot feel, like my dead lecturer lamenting through gypsies his fast suicide. My interpretation of this poem is that it is describing the effects of luxury and materialistic values on thought. Basically, Baraka is saying that luxury is a way of avoiding thought. Living in luxury is like living under a heavy tarpaulin because you are protected from information and ideas. This reminds me of Darwin's survival of the fittest, in how the rich justify their actions in colonizing poorer countries in order to suck them dry of their riches and make their own native people second-class citizens in their own country, which is seen in the British rule over India for almost a century. Also, when Baraka says the noxious game of reason, saying, no, no, you cannot feel, I interpret this as how throughout history people have been able to treat each other so badly because they have forced themselves to numb their feelings in order to be so inhumane towards one another. Through this worldwide detachment, Baraka expresses his own indifference when he says, I have not seen the earth for years, and following by leaving the poem undone so that he could make himself a turkey sandwich and answer the phone. To me, this shows feelings that he failed to further express or tried to avoid. Moreover, when he says the darkest of love, in whose sweating memory all error is forced, he is addressing the mistake that people such as himself make by trying to fill their lives with an unclear ideal of love. Overall, I believe that this poem is a criticism on materialistic values and how people have adopted apathetic behaviors in order to live comfortable lives where ignorance is a superficial bliss.